is morally and philosophically opposed to termination. It goes against all the reasons he became a doctor, and there are many like him. Should we force him to aid and abet? And if we do, and he decides to defy the law, what happens then? Do we take him to court? Do we ultimately send him to jail?
Well, I strongly object to the term aid and abet. Aid and abet is usually a term that you would use in relation to a crime or some wrongdoing.
Well, technically he'd be breaking the law, wouldn't he?
He technically, at the moment...
If he refuses?
If he refuses, he would...
So he will commit a crime by not doing it.
The law hasn't been settled, Mark, so let's go back. Aid and abet sounds like he is supporting a crime by referring a woman to another doctor. Look, he conscientiously objects, and there's going to be doctors who do that. I seriously believe they must refer on. If I was a Mormon, I'm a doctor, and I want to conscientiously object to giving a blood transfusion, I'm not going to leave my patient without somebody who'll give them that transfusion, because I would be endangering their life. You cannot pick and choose what way you treat a patient. And in this case, the pregnant person has come to you and said, I'm pregnant, I have a crisis pregnancy, I want to terminate that pregnancy. And you say, I can't deal with that because morally and philosophically I disagree, but you can go to hell because I'm not looking after you. Now, we've just had the Scally report, which is headlined by saying that the dismissal and uncaring approach to women that dominates the health service has to end. We cannot have doctors at the first port of call, when pregnant people come to them saying, it's nothing to do with me, off you pop. Can you imagine how a person with a crisis pregnancy would feel if the first medical professional they meet dismisses them and more or less tells them to F off, that are having nothing to do with them? They must refer on. You cannot do that to a patient. And if you're a vulnerable woman, like from direct provision, or you live in, I don't know, some far-flung rural area in the mountains, and there's only one local doctor, and he or she refuses to refer you on, I'm afraid that's not acceptable. Everybody must be treated equally in this country.
Cora?
Yeah. This, in fairness, Mark, it's a really bizarre thing that Brid has just said. To talk about doctors of the calibre of Dr. Niall, who we've just heard, talking about how he looks after and wants to continue to look after two patients, mother and baby, to suggest that he would say you can just pop off, or to use the term that Brid just used, I think that's very unfair. It's a complete dismissal.
Well, using
the
the term aiding and abetting, as she said, is also unfair.
Exactly.
We don't need to use that term. What we can say is that we don't, and we're not going to force doctors to take an active role in ending the life of a baby. Look at it this way. We all have things in society that are deeply repugnant to us. And for doctors like Dr. Maguire, abortion is one of those things, because abortion goes against the grain of everything that he went into medicine to do, and so many other doctors like him.
But the people have spoken. It's going to become law, and it is a medical procedure. It has got to be operated by and overseen by medical practitioners.
That's right. Abortion is a medical procedure with one aim.
Can I just finish? The debate is settled.
No.
By a very decisive majority in the country.
Okay,
abortion is a medical procedure with one intention, which is to end the life of the fetus. There is nothing to do with healthcare involved in abortion, and I think that's a problem.
You lost the debate,
with the
Cora.
debate.
You've got to move on. And if you don't move on, what the message you're saying and what doctors who are refusing to refer on are saying, it's okay to continue to treat women like we did in the past, dismiss them. What led us to the Magdalen laundries was this treatment of women as
really?
Okay, well, we can open up... hang on a second. Sorry, but we can open up a whole load of other cans of worms. Let's deal with this issue. The fact of the matter is this is going to become law. The fact of the matter is that Dr. Maguire and others like him are going to have to deal with it. So what are you proposing? I think people will accept and support conscientious objection. People have a right to do that if they're morally appalled by what it is they're being asked to do. So how do we get around that?
Well, you see, I think the first thing to say is that the Minister for Health is saying that doctors and healthcare workers are entitled to conscientious objection, but that's got to be genuine conscientious objection. It doesn't mean that you can not perform the procedure, but you have to refer on to somebody who you know is going to end the life of that baby.
Well, equally, people have decided that women are entitled to make a choice, and that has to be a genuine choice.
Could you let me finish my point?
I'm just taking up the point you're making about genuine ability to make decisions.
Genuine choice, if we're going to say that that is important in the Ireland of the future, picture has got to apply to doctors like Dr. Maguire. They cannot be forced to end the life of a baby.
They're not being asked to force to do anything other than refer on to somebody who will take care of the patient who is in front of them.
What care is being taken of that baby whose life will be ended?
You're going back over the debate that you lost.
That's the reality.
Cora, can I ask you a question, Cora? A crisis pregnancy, time is of the essence. There's a very short window. So if treatment is delayed, then it is effectively denied. Now, is it not?
Well, you see, what I would say to that firstly is that, again, treatment is not something that is the same thing as abortion. Abortion is ending of a human life. And I think that it is disrespectful to doctors like Dr. Maguire and so many others like him to say that he wouldn't be prepared to offer other help to a woman who comes in and is facing an unplanned pregnancy. But the other very important thing about this, Mark, is, and this is the reason why this debate is not over, as Brid would like to say, this debate is only beginning because we didn't have a debate on conscientious objection during the campaign. What the Minister has put forward is a plan for abortion. It's up to him to say how he's going to roll that out. And in rolling that out, he can't trample on the rights of doctors who've been working and have been training to save lives and not end them.
But he can trample on the rights of women
Brid,
who present themselves to their doctor.
Is this another manifestation of the reason why you had to take the vote in the first place? That you couldn't be taken care of here and you had to go and do that?
Well, absolutely. Cora's position is certainly a manifestation of it because, as I said, we cannot continue to dismiss the health care of women in this country as if it was, second to the preference of everything else. And I think the Scally report, and I'll just reiterate, showed yesterday that the lack of compassion for women has to end. And this is part of it. And if a woman presents herself, or a pregnant person, and trans people can now get pregnant as well, present themselves with a crisis pregnancy, and the doctor's the moral right to say, no, I don't do this, that's fine. But he or she must refer on. You would not do it if you had a patient who, as I said earlier on, you're a Mormon, the patient needs a blood transfusion.
No, but that's not
you
what
would
we're
never
talking
be given
about
the right
here. That's not
not
what
to
we're
refer
talking
on.
about.
We're talking about the patient.
I'm sorry.
We're
yes,
talking
we're talking
about the patient. She wants to talk about something else.
No, I
I'm
want to
talking
talk about
the
two patients.
Because I have to deal with reality,
fairness, Brid,
and I have to participate in framing this legislation.
You want to ignore one of those patients, Brid. Unfortunately, that has been
the hallmark. But you want to rerun the referendum?
No, I don't want to rerun the referendum, Mark. I accept that.
This is about giving women a choice.
Can I finish?
People a choice.
Sadly, the Eighth Amendment is gone from the Constitution, but that does not mean that conscientious objection, free conscientious objection, genuine conscientious objection should be gone. To remove that would be an attack on human freedom itself. And there's another very important point here, Mark, which is that these are not objections on grounds of religion or morality, as Brid only seems to see. Many doctors...
I'm sorry, you're the one that's coming up with the morality argument, not me.
I'm not actually.
I'm practically looking at what does a pregnant person do when they go to their doctor.
If you'd let me make my point...
If I lived in the Glanties, there's one doctor in the Glanties village, and if he or she says, I'm not dealing with you and I'm not referring you on...
And that's up to the minister. It's the minister's plan. The doctor...
I'm a legislator, it's also mine.
The point is that there is no evidence anywhere in the world to show that an abortion is something that will improve a woman's mental or physical health.
You're revisiting the debate,
No, I'm
Cora.
not, because you want to ignore that.
We have voted decisively to give women the right to make their own decision.
Mark,
we voted decisively.
If a doctor is going to be forced to ignore that fact and ignore the fact that an abortion is not good for a woman's mental health, but there is evidence around the world to show that it may be detrimental to a woman's health, then the minister, if he forces doctors to take part, what he's saying is, I am forcing you to ignore your clinical judgment, not your religious conviction, not your morality, but your clinical judgment on this woman, and I'm forcing you to end the life of this baby. And he cannot do that. And this is going to be an election issue, Mark. There are 700,000 people who voted no. There are doctors all over the country who are very unhappy disingenuous.
You're being totally disingenuous,
this is not going away.
We are not saying that there should be no clause for conscientious objection. What I am saying very clearly is that a doctor must refer on.
That's not conscientious objection.
If they refuse to do that, then they are ignoring the needs of their patient who presents with a crisis pregnancy.
Let me ask you a question,
They are
Brid.
totally ignoring the rights
we've got 30
of a
seconds.
woman.
Ask the question.
And we've just been through a referendum that you and I have debated.
Is there anything in this country? Is there anything that you would find repugnant that you would not like to be forced to do by a law?
Look, Cora, you lost the debate. You lost the debate.
Doctors
I am
don't
not
want to be
saying that
forced
any
to
doctor
end
should be
babies'
forced
lives.
to end baby's life. I'm not saying a doctor should be forced to
But you just want
end
them
a
to
baby's
have to
life
be
by
a little bit
performing
further
abortion.
back.
Sadly, ladies, we're going to have to leave it at that
because
we've run out of time.
There's no point in having this referendum.
I think if anybody thought that this was finished by virtue of the referendum result, they were sadly mistaken, and we will be